Hello! This video is one that I have been wanting to film for a really long time. Back when I was trying to decide which university I was going to go to, which I'm now in my third year going into fourth year at the University of Edinburgh studying literature. And 3 years ago, when I was trying to decide where I was going to go, I found watching people talk about their experiences and kind of honest reviews of where they went to university so helpful in making my decision. And I actually found that there wasn't enough of those sorts of videos online. So I'm really hoping that I can help somebody else who's like me, who just wants a little bit of help in terms of getting it straight from the horse's mouth, what it's really like to be at the university. I'm going to be talking about Edinburgh University in all sorts of different ways. I'm going to talk about the city, nightlife, how much it costs to live here, what the societies are like, and also what the student support is like. And I'll be sort of telling you as I go whenever I kind of change the subject and introducing a new topic. Okay, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the city, and this is something I could just speak about the city of Edinburgh all day long. I love it. There is never a day where I don't wake up and feel grateful to live in Edinburgh. Firstly, it's just a stunning city. I've actually lived in Scotland my entire life. I know you may not have thought that based on the accent, but I have. It wasn't until I came to live in Edinburgh that I really understood how much of a beautiful city it is. Of course, everybody knows it for, the Edinburgh Castle and Arthur's Seat or Victoria Street with those colourful shops. But actually, once you live in Edinburgh, you're able to see even more of these kind of really gorgeous little nooks and crannies that you only really experience if you live there. And one of the things that I enjoy every single year that always makes me so grateful to live here is in the Meadows, which is basically like this huge park in the middle of Edinburgh. There are lots of cherry blossoms planted, and every single April, all of these cherry blossoms bloom pink flowers, and it is so gorgeous. There are people always taking pictures underneath them, all the rest of it. I'll try and put some pictures on the screen right now as I'm talking of what it looks like, because it is stunning. And every single April, that just makes me so grateful to live in Edinburgh. It's so beautiful. And also all the streets, it's all kind of old Victorian houses, or if not Victorian, these kind of Gothic architecture that Scotland's known for. It is really, in terms of aesthetics, if you like to romanticise things, which I certainly do as a literature student, Edinburgh is 100% the city for you. Any single type of weather, whether it's rainy, snowy, stormy, Edinburgh will look good. It's like she suits any dress. She's gorgeous. Another thing that I think is really lovely about Edinburgh, especially coming from somebody who is from the country, is that compared to a lot of other cities, it does feel a little bit town-like. It does get crowded at times, but it's really easy to escape the crowds just by going a little bit out of the city centre, which is really lovely. And actually, the size of it is really great as well. I would say you could probably get anywhere in Edinburgh, or at least your most, like, the places you would need to get as a student, maybe to other people's flats and that kind of thing. I don't think any walk has ever taken me more than 40 minutes. And that's just what a lovely size. You kind of get to get your bearings and, your navigation really quickly when you arrive, and get to know the different areas. And yeah, it's just a really easy kind of digestible, safe size for a student, but still feels happening and like there's enough going on where it's exciting. And talking about things that are going on, one of the things that I love is the Edinburgh Fringe, which happens every single year. It's sort of this big festival. It does happen at the same time as another thing called the Edinburgh Festival. Technically those two are separate, but they happen at the same time. So people just kind of refer to it as like the Edinburgh Fringe or the Edinburgh Festival. And this is basically 3 weeks, every single August, where every kind of performing art comes to Edinburgh from international places to perform, and people also come, audience members come internationally into Edinburgh to see these people, and everywhere suddenly turns into a venue. You've got people performing in churches, on the street, in random little pubs and bars, and obviously in lecture halls as well, actually, and the theatres themselves. And it's just wonderful. And also, if you are somebody that likes kind of media and theatre, having the Fringe, which is an internationally desired and enjoyed festival, happen right on your doorstep. There are all sorts of wonderful opportunities that you can get from that as well, that, as I say, are happening right on your doorstep, which I am getting involved in the Fringe for the second time this year, and I am so looking forward to it. I feel like it is such a unique opportunity to get that you wouldn't get in any other city. It's amazing. And actually, coming back to Edinburgh kind of being internationally known as being a lovely place to visit and a beautiful place and a place where things are going on, I recently went on a trip to Italy with my mum, and sometimes we would chat to, other travellers that were also coming from abroad and, tourists in Italy. And every time I told whoever we were talking to that I was going to the University of Edinburgh, the response would always be, "Oh my gosh, Edinburgh is such a gorgeous city." And it really, really is. And it's globally known as being a stunning city and one that has loads and loads of things going on in terms of arts and culture. Okay, now I'm going to talk about nightlife. So nightlife in Edinburgh, I think sometimes can get a little bit of a bad rep because people tend to compare it to Glasgow and say that the Glasgow nightlife is better. I'm not the best person to comment on nightlife because I am not really one for clubs, but I have lots of friends who often enjoy a night out, and I've never once heard them complaining in Edinburgh. I've never heard anyone feeling the need to travel elsewhere to get a good night out. If you are a little bit suspicious and this is something that's important to you with a university, then I would go to Cowgate, which is where most of the clubs are when you visit Edinburgh, which I would advise. Do visit Edinburgh and do an open day if you can as well. I did that and I found it really helpful. And just go down Cowgate and have a look and see what's there, because that's where most of the kind of clubs and pubs are, and see for yourself. But I personally have always felt like there's loads going on. As I say, all of the friends that I have that enjoy that sort of thing have always had a good time, never had anyone complain. Okay, next is societies. So societies for me has actually really been the thing that has made my experience in Edinburgh what it is now. When I first came to Edinburgh in first year, I used to go home every single weekend. I really didn't feel very settled. And it wasn't until kind of maybe first semester of second year that I really started to settle. And I do credit that to joining societies. I mostly joined theatre societies. I did do one or two others, but the thing that kind of really made me feel like I'd settled in was theatre societies. And I do think they're very special for you all kind of bond together because you're working towards a show and then you get the excitement of the show week. And I do think if you're into theatre, I really would recommend joining a theatre society in Edinburgh, because I think there's kind of a unique enthusiasm for theatre in Edinburgh, possibly because of the Fringe, and there are so many opportunities within theatre. So I would 100% recommend the theatre societies. As I say, I pretty much accredit that to the reason why I'm so happy and so settled in Edinburgh now. But just for societies in general, there is such a variation of societies in Edinburgh. I've just Googled it. There are 350 societies registered with USA, which is the Edinburgh University Students Association. 350. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, there are so much variety in those societies. There's a Quidditch society, there's a Disney society, there's an a cappella society, there's a board game society. There really, really is something for everyone. And 100% what I would recommend, what would probably be my topmost recommendation for whatever university you decide to go to, it might not be Edinburgh, for whatever one, go to the Freshers' Fairs when the societies have their stalls up and just ask questions and take the leaflets and just be as interested as you possibly can and go to the Freshers' events, because societies really can, in my opinion, make or break your uni experience, especially if you're a bit nervous or especially if you've got a passion. That's such an easy way to make friends with like-minded people. Genuinely, I do believe that Edinburgh University and USA, the Edinburgh University Students Association that I just mentioned, really does make societies very friendly and accessible to freshers. There are stalls where you really will be welcomed. I promise, it's such a friendly atmosphere. I was so nervous to go to the stalls when I was in first year, but I promise everyone is really just so happy that you're there and happy to chat to you and meet you, and join societies. And I do honestly believe in Edinburgh, I cannot say anything bad about the societies. I think they're really well run, welfare is really, really well managed, and there is so much variety, 100% something for everyone. Yes, and even if you don't end up going to Edinburgh, just as broad university advice, I would say find out what you can about student societies during Welcome Week at the Freshers' Fairs or on Instagram. You can always DM the society on Instagram and join a society. 10 out of 10 for societies in Edinburgh. Okay, so next I'm going to speak about the cost. So I have never lived in London or a really expensive city like that. So I don't have another city to compare it to because I'm from the country, but I'm going to do what I can to kind of explain the cost. And I'm going to explain that to you with coffees and rent. So coffees are quite expensive. Even university coffees, depending on which cafe you go to, can be like £4.50. Obviously depending what you're ordering, but I think the general consensus is that coffees are very expensive in Edinburgh, and by extension, like cafes and meals out and things are expensive. And I would say rent obviously fluctuates a lot depending on which area you're living in and how many other people you're living with. I would say kind of the main studenty areas, if you're wanting to do a bit of your own research and kind of go on websites or Facebook and see roughly what the flats are kind of giving their rent at the moment, I would say Marchmont, Newington, Bruntsfield. Yeah, those three are probably the main student areas. Most of the people I know live in those three areas, particularly Marchmont. It seems to be a very popular one among Edinburgh University students, and it is gorgeous there, I have to say. So if you're wanting to do a bit more of your research, those three locations are kind of very studenty areas, very nice areas to live. And I would say by looking at flats in those three areas, you would get a very good kind of cross-section idea of what the rent prices are. But in summary, I wouldn't say it's extortionate to live in Edinburgh. I have heard people complaining of cities being much worse, but it is a lot more expensive than like the nearest city near me is, for example. And you do kind of shock yourself, at least with me, I shock myself how much coffees can add up to being in a month when they're just under a fiver, even at a university building. So certain things are quite steep. Also in Scotland, there's lots of nice things in place to kind of help the cost of being a student go down a little bit. For example, if you're under the age of 22, you can get a Young Scots card, which means that it's free bus travel and free tram travel as well if you get it as an Edinburgh citizen, which I've not got because I'm not originally from Edinburgh, if that makes sense, but you can sort that out very easily. And yeah, it gives you free bus travel, which means that it's easy to kind of get about. So yeah, overall, I would rate it pretty well in terms of cost. But as I say, I've not lived in another big city to compare it to. So that's kind of the best breakdown that I can possibly give you. Okay, the next thing that I'm going to speak about is possibly the only negative thing I'm going to say in this video, but I could not make this video in good faith and call it an honest review without including this, and that is student support. This has, for me at least, improved a lot since I've gone into third year. So since I've gone into the year where my marks start to count, because in Scotland with the 4-year degrees, your first 2 years don't count, you just need to pass them, and then the second 2 years do count. And for me, I've noticed a big improvement in the student support since going into third year, which I'm hoping is going to continue for fourth year. But I did have a bit of a rough time more than once in first and second year with trying to find help with things when I needed it. And quite often it was just like very almost like sort of trivial administration errors or, you know, wanting to get something changed. And the staff that work for Edinburgh University and the lecturers are lovely. They're all really friendly and really helpful. I honestly think the issue is with the system. It often seems that when you want to get something sorted or clarified, people are not able to help you because the system itself isn't very efficient. For me, it tends to have been choosing modules, like if I've wanted a module changed, or in the past I've actually been put onto the wrong module that was like worth the wrong amount of credits before as well. It didn't end up having any kind of big impacts, I'm happy to say, probably because it happened in first year, and as I just mentioned, first year you don't really need to have done anything else other than passed. But I have had friends of mine who've had, you know, issues with illness and things like that and just really not had the best support. And yeah, especially for a first year, if you're not familiar with the system and everything is new to you and you don't quite know who to email, the university really doesn't make it very easy for you to seek help. Yeah, this is probably the worst thing that I've got to say about Edinburgh, and as I say, I think it's the only bad thing I'm going to say in this video, because overall my experience with the university has been amazing, but the uni does have a bit of a bad rep when it comes to student support. And when I first went here, I thought that would be fine because I've got a good kind of support network at home. I was like, they mean kind of emotional support, like pastoral support. I'm fine, you know, I've got nice parents that I can call and can help me, but actually it seems to be kind of administrative, practical support, at least in my experience and with my friends' experience. So what I would say, don't let this advice put you off coming, but do let it allow you to prepare yourself for it. So every time you notice a really good, friendly, engaging, nice lecturer that you think is, somebody that is kind of caring about you and would help you in a sticky spot, just write down their email address and their name somewhere, and you can always email them and they will help you. I have done that a couple of times with lecturers that I thought were really helpful. I've just kind of jotted them down or remembered them in my head as someone that was quite a supportive lecturer. And sometimes if you have a problem, you can email them and they can help you out. Obviously, it depends what the issue is. Sometimes it's maybe not be appropriate to email a lecturer on certain issues, but 9 times out of 10, as I say, the staff that work for Edinburgh University are lovely. It seems to be an issue with the system. So that's a good tip. So yeah, as I say, just let this kind of prepare you in advance for it so that you are ready for it, as opposed to letting it put you off, because I am somebody that would classically be someone that could be very easily stressed out by administration things going wrong and this sort of thing, and I've survived. I've still loved my time here despite these issues. So yeah, don't let it put you off, just prepare yourself for it. And there are 100% things that you can do to prepare yourself for it, I promise. So I've now gone through kind of all the categories that I'd written down with my experience of Edinburgh University. If I've forgotten everything, do let me know. I might make a part 2 of this video if I feel like it's helping people. I am planning on doing another video kind of going into the structure of my degree specifically, which is English literature. I just wanted to end the video with a couple of bits of advice for anyone who is thinking about university more generally. So my 2 bits of advice would be go to open days, or if you can't get onto the open days, at least go to the city and just look about. Quite often university buildings will be open if it's during the week for you to kind of look about and have a nosy. So you can almost get a similar experience to going to an open day as you can from just visiting the city during a weekday. And I really think it can help to just get an idea of the sort of environment that you'll be in. So even if you are just walking around the buildings and chatting to people, I think that's so helpful because it helps you kind of work out if you can envision yourself being happy there. And of course, it's not all about the environment, but I do think our environment kind of impacts our happiness more than we realise sometimes. So yeah, open days and visiting the uni buildings and cities, and then joining societies. And the way I would do that is by going to the freshers' fairs and talking to the people that are representing the societies at the stalls. As I say, I was so nervous to go in first year. I went to uni with completely the wrong attitude. I was absolutely dreading going to uni. I was very nervous, very anxious. As I say, went home most weekends in the first year. Did not want to go to the Society's Freshers' Fair, but I forced myself. I went to a couple of workshops that were on, and it's now led me to being so happy and settled, and I can now sit in front of the camera and smile and say I'm so grateful that I went to Edinburgh University. So I really hope this video has helped you. I know it can be really tough deciding what you need to go to. If you've got any questions or anything that I didn't quite cover, leave them in the comments. This is probably going to be the first video that I ever post on my channel, which is exciting. So I will 100% be reading my comments and will be very grateful for any comments or feedback or anything like that that you have for me. Thank you so much for watching until the end. So exciting to finally be making my first YouTube video. This has been a personal goal of mine forever. So I'm feeling very grateful to be sat here right now making it for you. I really hope it has helped. And I hope you have a lovely day. Goodbye.